Welcome to this week's GCN Tech Clinic, where we aim to answer your bike, tech and maintenance related questions. As always, you can submit your questions in the comments section down below, and it helps us out if you use the hashtag AskGCNTech. As always, we're going to answer as many questions as possible within
the allotted time.
Perfect. Right, over to you, Adam. What's the first question?
So, from Imagine 2035, hashtag AskGMBN Tech, how do you determine the correct bike frame size, and how much do sizing recommendations vary between manufacturer's website? Has GCN made a video on how to easily find the right frame size and stem length, saddle position for big or small frame size? Is there something like the tyre pressure calculator for frame size and stem length?
Well, there isn't something as simple as the tyre pressure calculator when it comes to bike fits. But there's a few different things that are springing into mind, right? You've got... There's bike fit systems that are out there, which are broadly used in lots of different bike shops and stuff. ID Match is one that we've made videos on in the past, the Cell Italia setup, which helps look at your sort of physiological setup, how that positions you on a bike, and then cross-references it with different bikes, brands and sizes that are available. So that's like a super effective way of doing it. But also, the simplest way I've found of comparing, say, what bike setup you've got now to something that you may be looking at purchasing in the future is this website called Geometry Geeks.
Yes.
So, this is great. Yeah. So you can input what bike you have, what size it is, and then you can compare all of the measurements of that across to like different brands and stuff.
Yeah.
But on the most sort of rudimentary, basic way of looking at it, most manufacturers' websites will have a sort of guide in terms of like rider height, like the inseam of your leg, and then give you some guidance towards what that's for. Yeah. But it's very difficult to have like a blanket rule because everyone's got different body shapes and proportions. You might be really tall, but you might have like slightly shorter legs than some people. Who knows? Yeah. Okay, right. Next question is from Solo Reader. Great. They say, hi there. I've got a new build Road 2x Sram bike, and I have a question regarding the crank spacers. Sram recommends to add 2mm and 2.5mm spacers for my bottom bracket. However, the bike mechanic told me no spacers were needed. The bike rides and shifts as it should. Is there any damage done by not using the spacers? What are you thinking?
So I'd always recommend checking the sort of SRAM chart. It's a really good one for your bottom bracket and crank axle compatibility. Obviously, bottom bracket shell width can vary a little bit from manufacturer to manufacturer, so that chart might not be accurate for your bike all the time. I guess if your mechanic has done it, they will have seen loads of different bikes and hopefully know what they're doing. But in theory, as long as that preload collar's wound down and it's not about to slip off the thread, and there's no movement in your cranks, then you should be fine.
The first thing that sprung to mind was if you have too many spacers in there, you're going to like crank up the bolt which holds the whole thing together, and then that's going to be adding preload into the bottom bracket, and that's a big no-no. Yeah,
and potentially affect, if it's on the drive side as well, affect your chain line negatively as well. So,
that's a good point to point out. Okay, next question from Luke Hyam. What are you thinking? You want to read it out?
Where are we going? Luke. Yep. So thanks for answering my previous question about 2 cheap bikes versus 1 expensive all-rounder. I've decided to go for a carbon gravel bike and get a set of road wheels. I'm struggling to find a rear mech which will fit both an 1132 cassette for road wheels and an 1140 mountain bike cassette for gravel wheels. Is there anything about that might work?
Well, what are you thinking? You got any ideas first?
Yeah, so I'm sort of guessing by the ratios you've said about you running Shimano. Okay. If it's 1x, then the RDRX 812 rear mech should work if it's on 11 speed.
I got no idea. I was just thinking, going real broad on this, and I was thinking, well, as long as you get a setup of a rear derailleur that will work with the biggest cassette that you've got, whilst it might not be like optimised for the smaller cassette, it should be able to work. You just have to adjust that B limit screw, right?
100%. With that, chain length should work as well.
Yeah, as long as it's set up for the biggest cassette, you should be okay. The issue will come is that you might end up with the chain being a little bit too long if you're going to have those big gaps between those cassettes. So there's a few bits to be mindful of, and there is no like one answer, but it sort of sets you on the track, I guess. Okay, Mike Howard 77 7.7 next. Hey guys, I recently had to ride through a bit of water, rare here in Australia. Anyhow, the wheels now have water in them a week later, even after riding about 120 kilometres. Knowing how wet it gets where you are, any tips for removing the water? I can't believe they've done this. Currently, they've removed the wheels and they're laying them at about a 20-degree angle with a string wick in the hole pointing down, trying to sort of
wick the water. I mean, that's quite clever.
Through the process, what I believe, if I paid attention at school, is called osmosis. From high concentration to low concentration.
I mean, that's a lot of syllables for me to compute. So,
anyway, so look, this is a super common problem, isn't it? Right? Especially in carbon fibre wheels. What I tend to do is something similar to this, just angle the wheels with the drain hole at the bottom, and hopefully you get most of it out. But at the end of the day, if there's loads of water sloshing around in there, you're going to have to take the tyre off, take the rim tape all off, and drain it all out from the spoke holes on the inside.
I mean, what could have happened, say you had, if you're running tubeless, did you say you're running tubeless? No.
Don't have such information, I don't know.
So you might have like a little micro hole in your tape, sealant might have got through and clogged up your drain hole.
Wow.
Yeah. So again, take the tape off, clean that all out, make sure that drain hole in the wheel is clear.
Solution, don't ride in the rain.
Or that, Zwift. There you go.
Just do Zwift. Next question over to you.
Stanisnowski 2520.
Good job on the username there. Like that.
Hi GCN Tech. I am currently running 2.1 Mezcal and 47 Terreno dry from Vittoria on my gravel bike, and whilst these are probably the fastest option for my pure gravel rides, I wish to do a bit more road riding with mixing in gravel sectors. These tyres feel...
They feel boring.
Boring?
Oh, great.
Okay. On 70 road and then 30% dirt and cobbles. I'm looking for a set of tyres for a bit more lively feel. What do you pick? 40 gravel semi-slicks, so Hutchinson's, or something close to pure road riding like a Corsa or something else?
Well, look, first thing is tyre brands and specific models are going to be personal to everyone. Some people will be like die-hard fans of one brand and others vice versa. But what I'm going to say here is let's take... They're talking about Vittoria's, for example. So Vittoria have actually recently changed the naming of their gravel tyres to use the T number, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, the lower the T number, the smoother the terrain is for.
Exactly that.
The higher the T number, the more aggressive it's for. Okay, so that gives you an idea if you want to stick within that range.
So I think the Terreno dry is T30.
Okay.
So sort of, the second one along in that range. So it's not the slickest, but
But what's springing to mind here is if they're suggesting a 70-30 split of road and then 30 of the off-road, you could be going like pretty sort of road tyre-esque, is what I'm thinking. Now, I'll bring it across to Pirelli, one of our channel partners, right? They've recently just launched the new Cinturato tyre. And specifically the purpose of this tyre is to try to fill the market for people who are going, 70% road, 30% light gravel. So
there you go.
That's the kind of tyre you wanted to be looking at. I'm not saying specifically that one.
No.
But every brand will have something trying to do that thing. And I think that will mean you get extra speed on the road and you've got a casing that's robust enough to survive off-road. Okay, Jimmy P445 next. They have a question about weight. Is 1 kilogram of weight on the frame the same as 1 kilogram of weight on my tummy? I understand rotational mass is different, but I can't see why body weight would be any different to the rest of the bike. Just curious because people spend massive dollars on saving grams on the frame, but could probably just lose some body weight for free. Well, yes, that is true.
That's very...
So, effectively, this is a very difficult question to answer, and Ollie would love explaining this in a super nerdy, sciencey way. So, if you're cycling uphill, a bike that's 1 kilogram heavier is going to mean you go the same speed as a bike that's 1 kilogram lighter, but you're 1 kilogram heavier. The differences are going to come when you start to say, how is that mass being used and affecting aerodynamics? Because you could then say, if your bike is 1 kilogram heavier, but that 1 kilogram is meaning that the frame is stiffer, or it's now designed to be more aerodynamic in certain ways, then it's going to offset the weight. The same way you could also argue that in some wind tunnel tests, a beer belly has proven to be slightly aerodynamically efficient. So, it isn't quite as simple as just looking at the weight for the weight. But in essence, if you're a kilogram heavier or your bike's a kilogram heavier, same.
Yeah.
Next question for you.
Mechanic. Clever play on words there. 767. Hey lads, if I upgrade my cassette from one with the biggest being 32 to one with 34, my derailleur can't handle it. Does my chain need to be a link longer? What is it with a 32? So...
Oh, how to size your chain for the cassettes, right?
Yeah. My cassette is... Yeah, can handle it, yeah.
So what I would say is you just, if you're going to go up from a 32 to a 34, then you're going to need a slightly longer chain.
Yeah. And then you keep the old chain with the 32 cassette.
Yeah.
So if you do ever want to swap it back, you don't have to cut anything down.
Happy days.
Ready to go.
Well, that was the easy question to finish on because that was our last one. Right.
Hey.
As always, I say at the end of every single tech link, if we didn't answer your question, well, I'm really sorry. Be persistent and we'll pick it up in the following weeks. Right, we're out of there.
Yep.
See ya.